It gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Robert Walter Whirlwind Johnson into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, and here to accept is his grandson, Lange Johnson, representing his grandfather and their family today. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeannie, thank you so much for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, members of the International Tennis Hall of Fame Nominating Committee, members of the class of 2009, it is a tremendous honor to be here with you today. This is no doubt a great day for the Johnson family, but more importantly, this is a great day for the sport of tennis. My grandfather, Dr. Robert Walter Whirlwind Johnson, was a great running back at Lincoln University, about 300 miles from here in the southeast corner of Pennsylvania. He was also a caring physician who established his medical practice in the tiny town of Lynchburg, Virginia. And one day, he decided to turn his passion for tennis into a cause that would be felt around the world. Dr. J came along at a time when a visionary was absolutely necessary in the sport. To be sure, he was a bit player in a much larger struggle to integrate the American society of the 1940s and 50s. Tennis was one front in that struggle where young Robert decided to see if he could move African Americans and tennis forward at the same time. The master plan was hatched in the summer of 1946 in Ohio. Dr. J and his good friend, Dr. Hubert Eaton, were watching the American Tennis Association's women's final, the African American equivalent to the United States Lawn Tennis Association. Althea Gibson, a raw 19-year-old, was in the midst of self-destructing against the steady, if unspectacular, Romania Peters. As the two men watched the match, Dr. J leaned over and said to his colleague, "I wish there was something we could do for that girl." They strategized from the stands, and as the match wore on and eventually wore out the frustrated Harlem resident, they decided they had a plan. At its conclusion, the two doctors approached Althea, and Dr. J asked, "How would you like to play at Forest Hills?" This completely stunned her. No African American had ever played at Forest Hills, then the site of the U.S. National Championships. Both men went on to open their homes and wallets to Althea in order to turn their vision into reality. They created a tennis boot camp in Lynchburg, Virginia, and an academic and social finishing school in Wilmington, North Carolina. And in 1950, just 4 years after Dr. J asked the question, Althea would go on to play Forest Hills. Althea would also go on to win 5 major singles titles during her career, most notably back-to-back winner of Wimbledon and the US Open in '57 and '58. By the time Althea reached the gates of Forest Hills, a 12-year-old boy from Richmond, Virginia, had already arrived at Dr. J's Lynchburg home for the summer. Ronald Charity, an excellent player and coach in his own right, brought Arthur Robert Ashe Jr. to my grandfather's attention. By this time, Dr. J created the ATA Junior Development Program, and Arthur became his next star pupil. Arthur went on to win the first US Open in '68 and Wimbledon in 1975. Arthur nor any other kid in the program need worry about balls, rackets, hitting partners, or entry fees. All that was necessary to be part of this social experiment was to follow Dr. J's code of conduct, which, oddly enough, required perfection. No displays of emotion, period. Balls that were 2 inches out were suddenly in. In this new world, the misbehavior or perceived misbehavior of one could taint the group, taint the race, and those coming behind them. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad, he would always say. And those who made Dr. J mad by not following the program were not around very long. Arthur and dozens of other youth, some of whom are here today, like Bonnie Logan, Lenny Simpson, Leslie Allen, Doug Smith, Willis Thomas, I could go on forever, traveled together in a caravan of Buicks and Oldsmobiles, clothed in their tennis whites, while often being the only faces of color in tournaments in Greensboro, Knoxville, Little Rock, and Kalamazoo. This new world of integrated tennis that my grandfather helped forge shone a harsh spotlight on the African American players who went through the cracks created by Arthur and Althea. A small boy peered through the fence of Dr. J's court, watching, listening, waiting for his turn. That boy next door literally learned first by osmosis and then by years of training on the same court that Althea, Arthur, Bobby Riggs, Pauline Betzatti, and many others had played on. Juan Farrow became Dr. J's great final student. He was the national 12 and under champion and went back and won the national 14 and unders. My grandfather would not live to see Juan through, and I'm sure if he were alive today, that would be one of his biggest regrets. Perhaps dying on his greatest talent. 3 names are on Dr. J's tombstone: Althea, Arthur, and Juan, proving that the belief that it could be done was not only achievable, but also repeatable. The key mantra of my grandfather's life was, "It can be done." No integration in big-time tennis? It can be done. No state-of-the-art tennis facilities and equipment for African American players? Absolutely can be done. If he were here today, my grandfather would survey the game, and he would be delighted as well as disappointed. He would reflect that besides the great Venus and Serena Williams, there have been too few great African American players. But he wouldn't hold a press conference denouncing the fact, because he was a visionary and a problem solver. He would begin by finding selfless tennis professionals and selling them on his vision, a vision of finding the best, most overlooked and underserved talent, and providing these youth with a foundation for success in any endeavor they chose. And with your help and the help of people like Jeannie Ashe, the Williams sisters, Billie Jean King, Bud Collins, Leslie Allen, Lenny Simpson, Katrina Adams, people who have shown a profound commitment to giving back to the sport, not only can it be done, but it will be done and better than ever before. Thank you.